Mark here for another great Wisdom and Knowledge 5 podcast. And I bring back Matt Landman of actualactivist.com. He created the documentary Frankenskies, has his own company, Spero Protective Gear. Matt, tonight we're going to talk about smart meters. And by the way, welcome back to the podcast. I really appreciate your insights, and it's great to connect with, a humanitarian who really gets what's going on in the world.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you having me on, especially to talk about important topics as they arise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is a very important topic, smart meter fires. Now, I want to start out by reading one of your posts from yesterday because it makes perfect sense. It's so relevant, and then you can just chime in on it. All right, so this is from yesterday that you wrote. Smart meters have lithium-ion batteries. When these batteries catch fire, they have what's called thermal runaway, where they will go from 140 degrees Fahrenheit to 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit in just a few seconds. The smart meter is connected to the copper wiring of the home, which is designed to travel electricity due to its conductivity. Along with being conductive, the copper wires are also great at heat transfer via convection. So when the supposed forest fires hit neighborhoods but burn more homes than trees, the culprit in the unusual fire forensics looks to be the lithium-ion batteries. It's no wonder these homes are burned to the dust while trees are standing within feet of the houses. These homes are burning from the inside out, literally. The copper wires in the homes are insulated and carrying extreme heat to every corner of the home. Looks to be that the smart meters are designed to be fire dangers, and each distraction is keeping people from waking up to the truth of what's happening here. Also, on 9/11, thermite was used to bring down those buildings and turn them into dust, melting steel and obliterating concrete. Lithium-ion batteries are the new thermite. Think. All right, there you go. Pretty powerful post.
Thanks, Mark. And that's great to talk about that. And I'm on Facebook, Matt Landman, and that's where I put that post.
And I'll post the link below. I know that's your best platform to get your
Terrific.
content out there right now.
Yeah, thank you so much. So to give it a little bit of background, oh wow, to really think about it, the smart meters have been like my arch nemesis because in 2016, I became electrically sensitive from living right next to one. And that's how my whole journey with EMF started. So I've learned about them the hard way, and I've known of the dangers firsthand. And really with smart meters, distance is your friend. I learned that as well. I just happened to be really, really, really close to one, sleeping and working, and it actually caused some harm to my heart and was giving me severe heart palpitations. And I became so electrically sensitive that I couldn't even hold a cell phone in my hand. It would be like feeling to electricity, like give me a shock kind of thing. So I've mitigated that and learned about it. And I've, reduced to, I'm not so sensitive anymore. I've recovered a lot, but I've learned so much. And so that's why I created my EMF protection clothing line and accessories and all that sort of stuff. And so I've learned a lot about smart meters firsthand, but also from a lot of people reaching out to me on Facebook and then on other social media platforms, and just at frankenskies@gmail.com or through my EMF protection clothing company, Spero Gear, Spero Gear. I get a lot of messages and people reach out to me all over the place. And it's wild because every energy company has different types of smart meters, different regulations and rules, depends on the state, jurisdiction, wherever you are, it's different. Different countries have different laws and all this sort of stuff. Surprisingly, if you live in the UK, even though they're shoving them down their throats, there's options, a lot of options to say no. A lot of different power companies, even like they have different power companies. And I don't know about you, but everywhere I've ever lived in the United States, you have one choice of power company. It's either you you get your power or you don't. Like California is a monopoly. It's PG&E, and they've even taken the blame for some forest fires, but then pointed the finger at down power lines and negligence in that arena and that space. But still the question, I mean, there is this huge elephant in the room, and it is smart meters and how they are related potentially to fire hazards and fires in neighborhoods and forest fires that come into neighborhoods, and odd forensic evidence that we haven't really seen prior to, I believe the first one that was really bad was around 2017 in Santa Rosa. So we had Santa Rosa, and then we had shortly thereafter Paradise, and we have had Lytton, BC, British Columbia. We just had Jasper, Alberta, part of Canada. We had Maui. There's a handful of places, and then where I lived in Southern Oregon, in the Rogue River Valley, we had Talent and Phoenix, Oregon, Southern Oregon, and these instances where a little forest fire like encroaches on a town, then all of a sudden you're losing a lot of infrastructure, and the homes are turned to. And these actually happened in Ventura, California, other places. It's been happening. Boulder County, Colorado, they had a Christmas.
I know they had them in 2017, at least the fires in Burbank when I was living over there in the LA area. And so like you could see them right behind where I was working at the time. So
yeah, it's wild. And in some of these instances, you're losing like a majority of the infrastructure in towns, like Lytton, BC, almost the entire town got wiped out. And so I lived in Talent, interesting name of a town, I know. And in that instance, 2,300 low-income homes went up in dust, basically, in the broad daylight of Monday afternoon. It was Labor Day 4 years ago. So we just passed that anniversary. And at the time, I didn't have a car, and I was walking through the rubble to go to the post office and witnessing it and taking it all in. I never really jumped to conclusions. It's not the best idea to jump to conclusions, being the truther or conspiracy theorist or whatever you want to call me, because I've got a large reach, and also I don't want to look bad. And it's like I don't just jump to conclusions on things, right? Like with the chemtrails and all that sort of stuff. All of this is a big reach for some people. Some of it's a stretch for their minds to comprehend. So already I want to make sure that I'm speaking legitimate truth and can't be debunked, because then they won't listen to anything I say after that, right? So for the smart meters and how they could be related to the fires, I really took my time and I didn't jump to any conclusions. And I've talked to electricians and firefighters and all sorts of people that are qualified to discuss this topic. And after a lot of due diligence, I've come to some pretty poignant potential conclusions, at least hypotheses that need to be addressed. And so, especially after the Maui fires, which all of this unravels into. So I'm working on a movie. So I first made my film Frankenskies, which is available for free. It came out in 2017. It's the historical chronological timeline expose of how we got to geoengineering and chemtrails today, right? Yeah. And after making the movie in 2017, I've slowly been putting together a sequel, and it's getting some momentum now. Frankenskies 2: Climate Chains. And it's called Climate Change because chains like shackles, because it's a play on words like climate change. But there is no real climate change. I mean, the climate is being engineered and messed with and tinkered with, but there is no like catastrophic sea level rise and global warming like they're saying, and carbon dioxide and nitrogen level increases so bad that we need to shut down farms and push people into smart cities and do 15-minute cities and low emission zones in cities and all these other things. There's this thing called net zero, where they don't want carbon emissions at all out of each country that's signed on board. And in the Netherlands, 3,000 farms just got shut down because of their nitrogen release, and they're demonizing cow farts. If you really look into it, cows hardly even fart. They burp more than anything. And if you do the right research, cows are carbon neutral, if not carbon negative. A whole University of Nebraska research study just came out, like proving cows aren't as bad as they're being told. And also grass releases methane, come to find out, whether it's eaten by cows or not, the grass is going to release the methane. So all of this demonizing the rural sustainable way of life and pushing people into cities so that they can be controlled, it's this green agenda, but really it's not for the benefit of the people. It's really lies, and at the end of the day, it's all based on fallacy. And so what's happening is we have situations like massive hurricanes or drought or fires. And then the media, which is controlled, is pointing the finger at this scheme, this narrative that's been created, that is global warming or climate change, that's blamed on us, our carbon, our SUVs and what have you, because of Al Gore and Greta and all this. We're somehow been programmed to believe it. But I mean, if you've got unlimited marketing money and you can control Hollywood and everything, then you can pretty much shove
And
down.
now they got Greta doing both sides. Have you noticed that? She's now at the pro-Palestinian protests getting arrested. So, what is up with that? Obviously, it's all, divide and conquer. It's all games by them, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. They play her. I mean, she's probably just getting votes on over there doing that kind of thing. But
And
yeah,
and on a side note, Whole Foods is actually selling her book, in the whole body department because that's all about health, right?
hilarious. Yeah, and so to talk about those characters, Al Gore, he came out with a movie. He made all these dire predictions. That movie worked its way into the curriculum in schools, and then in Kent, which is a district in the United Kingdom, outside of in England, Kent school district. It's a city of Kent. Parents fought and got it removed, and it went
Oh,
to like this
nice.
Kent Supreme Court, and the judge ruled that everything that Al Gore said is fallacy, and it's all like science fiction, basically. Like should not be conveyed as fact to students, right?
That's
And
incredible
so,
that they got a victory that way.
right, and so instances like the Maui fires and the Paradise fires and these different situations, they're being headlined in the worldwide media as the problems of climate change. And then it's this Hegelian dialectic problem reaction solution, this problem reaction solution where the problem is orchestrated. They're making the problem, and then we're getting there. The reaction is public fear, and the solution in this situation is going to be not allowing people to live in certain forested areas that have repeat fires, telling people that they're safer in smart cities where they can be protected from certain things like fires and whatever, and saying that there's not enough resources because of all the evil like storms and tornadoes and all this evil weather, that we have to live in certain safe zones or whatever their whole agenda is. Or actually, if we stop driving our cars, then there will be less carbon in the atmosphere, and then there won't be all these problems because everything is attributed to that, right? So it's like they're going to come up with these rules and regulations that are supposedly for our own good, but it's all been designed to be not for our own good. So these catastrophic fires that are taking out neighborhoods and traumatizing the entire world, not to mention the people who lose their livelihoods, these fires have been very suspicious. People have questioned the forensic evidence because in certain situations, like Talent, Oregon, and Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii, when the fires, these forest fires, when they approach the town, all of the normal procedural steps that are by the book, this all goes out the window for some reason.
Exactly, yeah.
The rules are just all of a sudden swept under the rug. And so rule number one is when there's fire, you don't turn the water off because water puts out fire. So in both Maui, in both Lahaina and Talent, the water was turned off. People and firemen, people at their homes with their hoses, and firemen at the hydrants, they didn't have any water access. So that left people sitting ducks, for one. Two is when there's fires like this, there's supposed to be emergency warnings and things like that did not happen. But also a big issue is the power is supposed to be turned off to decrease the risk of electrical fires. And in these instances, the power was left on. And a big recommendation for people, if you're ever in an instance of a natural disaster of any sort, turn your power off. Know where your breaker is. Go and turn it off. I remember I told you I lived in Sedona, Arizona. We lived in like kind of like a double wide like trailer thing. Every night, I mean, we lived in the desert, so it was, and the desert nights are nice and cool. Every night I would go to that breaker and turn off all the electricity in the house. And
Okay.
then I actually figured out which one was the refrigerator. I was able to leave that one on only. But like literally, I don't like any of that dirty electricity. And like I would turn basically, essentially, I'm turning my smart meter off too. So if you have fires approaching your home, go to that circuit breaker, turn off all the electricity, and there might be your house just left and everyone else's is gone
Hmm.
because these smart meters seem to be playing a role in the fires. So how are the smart meters playing a role in the fires is the big question. Well, we have to back up and learn about lithium ion batteries. And lithium ion batteries are in these electric cars. They're also in like e-bikes and even like e-cigarettes. And it's just, they're
Yeah.
all over the place. They're actually very much all over the place and very pervasive and crazy. But we've been learning, if you haven't witnessed it yet, you probably will, or you can look it up.
Hmm.
These electric vehicle cars are getting in car crashes, or electrical vehicle trucks are getting in wrecks. And
Yeah.
when these batteries are disrupted or shaken up or cracked or whatever,
Hmm.
they explode. It just
Yeah,
gets
we had one
crazy.
out here in Wilmington that they actually reported on the in the local news on, an article that it exploded. So,
Yeah, and the firemen can't put it out. They're
hmm.
trying to figure out what the protocol should be, and each municipality is having to outfit themselves with this crane that picks up these burning cars and submerges them in a dumpster kind of water, because you have to suffocate it. You can't put it out with a hose because the lithium, it's super flammable. Basically, once the fire and hits the oxygen, once the lithium and fire and oxygen mix, it's just like over, and it burns super hot, like 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 3,300 plus Celsius or centigrade, whatever. Um, is Celsius and centigrade the same thing? Oh my gosh, I got to look that up. So, anyways, I think it is. So, sorry, European
No,
stuff.
you're fine.
So these lithium ion batteries are very volatile. People are losing their homes with solar power panels that have the lithium batteries tanks, because after these things get 140 degrees, they can just go nuts and burn and get crazy and burn down a whole house or
Hmm.
whatever. Same with your e-bike battery or whatever. If it's ruptured or whatever, once it gets a little overheated and it gets 140 degrees, it can go nuts. So really hot cars, especially Arizona, where we both used to live and what have you, like some instances of like little toys with lithium batteries are like burning up like half the car and stuff like that when it gets too hot. So
Hmm.
at 140 degrees, there's this thing called thermal runaway, where the lithium in the battery starts to just get hotter, and then it starts to burn. But it goes from 140 degrees, like I said, the post, to 6,000 degrees. It can do it really fast. I'm not sure if it can do it slower too, because I'm trying to figure out exactly how it's heating up the entire house without just melting all the wires, because 6,000 degrees is super hot. But it is pulverizing these homes from the inside out, is what I'm realizing. So what
Hmm.
we've got going on here is, so first of all, these batteries, they're very toxic. There's a book called Cobalt Red that investigates, talks about cobalt mining. It's so tragic. So many people die, and it's just raping the earth. Lithium mines, also horrible for the earth. And then these batteries are super expensive also, to replace and all these sort of things. And they're highly toxic and flammable and can cause a total fire. And then when these cars catch on fire, the driver, like their first instinct is to get it off the road. They're just going to light the side of the road on fire and cause probably like a brush fire, forest fire from doing that. Like, it's the best thing is to leave it in the middle of the road and
Okay.
then have everyone deal with it, which is just absurd. I just got back from a couple trips to Scotland in the spring and early summer, and there was a report of, I believe it was a Tesla, it doesn't matter, it's an EV car,
Hmm.
and someone parked it on the bottom floor of a parking garage, and it took down the entire concrete parking garage. It burned so hot. Okay.
Hmm.
So learning all of these different things about, I mean, like the truth about the nature of truth is you never stop learning.
Hmm.
It just keeps coming. Like, you ask these questions and you go down these deeper rabbit holes. And oh my gosh, did I tell you that I spoke to so I have a gas station clerk who I've been giving my movie to, and we're friends. And I got in a deep conversation with him the other day because the grid went
Hmm.
down. We were just talking, and he's a gas station guy, because in Oregon they pump your gas.
Oh,
And
do they? Okay.
yeah. So I was like, we started talking, and like he's friends with some cops around here too, because they come and pump his, they pump his gas and they small talk. And I go, bro, tell me what's up with those purple street lamps? We're on another tangent, but I asked him
Okay.
what's up with
No,
purple
no.
street lamps, and he said I got a cop friend who told me all about them. And it's for the cameras, so that the cameras can see in the dark, like a whole new spectrum. They can see really, really well in the dark now with that. And he said it's for the cameras to see better and more in the dark. So when those purple street, and they're telling everybody, oh, it's just a manufacturer's defect. Dude, they're popping up overseas now. Like so the bulb maker who messed up like 5 years ago now, they're just continuing to mess up and then telling all of the other bulb makers how to mess up, and then they're just supplying thousands of them around the world and not recalling them and just being like, whoopsies. It's like, no, they're very much purposeful, and they expose a spectrum of light that's really good for the camera's lens, but not for our eyes as much. Anyways, that's the whole story. So the lithium ion batteries, these are batteries. They don't have to be lithium. So I met a woman recently. It's amazing. And she's really nice and old. And she's got a whole solar power station on her home. And she's got lead acid batteries, basically like batteries that we have in our car. She charges them up. They get full of charge. She takes them and puts them in this electric vehicle that she has. And she drives around this electric vehicle and has her entire home completely off grid, sustainable, powered by not lithium-ion batteries. So there are other options, because that's a question that comes up. Like, well, are we reliant on these? Do we have to have these? No, we don't have to at all. And so what seems to be occurring, which I've now like what's amazing is if you want to go back to that post, please, after we talk about it for a second, it would be great if you could look at the comments, because the comments are so juicy. There's people that are like, oh, my friend's a Maui firefighter, and in Maui, the firefighters are saying that the fires were caused by the smart meters, and like everyone's corroborating the story. Like, not
I've heard. What about the firefighters you've talked to? What have they said? And are they ones who are telling the truth and like us, or what do you think?
Well, the lithium-ion battery hypothesis came from a firefighter that I just met.
Yeah, I figured
and
that
so
much.
that was huge. Some of them, they don't know. They're just like,
okay.
They're just like, we haven't been trained on that. And like we get there and we put out the fire. Some of them, they get there and the smart meter's just going nuts and it's on fire and it's obvious, like especially city firefighters. So there's wildland firefighters, there's different types. Not everyone's willing to talk, and it's not that easy to get everyone to talk. Some of them were in tears when they tried to put out these local fires and the hydrants were off, and they're discussing that and talking about that. But they never think foul play. They work for the government, and then they get some like BS from their higher up, and they're like, all right, better luck next time, and then they just move on. That's a good question, but it's just like every other industry. People are compartmentalized, and they're on a need to know basis, and they're really not thinking outside the box. They're putting out spot fires, whatever, this and that. It's wild. So that's a really great question. I wish there were more that I could corroborate the story with and really get to the bottom of it all. I have a friend who's a New Jersey firefighter, and so he's working in like this urban areas, and in urban areas there's a big talk of what to do about these lithium-ion battery fires. If you go on YouTube and you look up lithium-ion battery fires and then put in your state or your county or your city, like I put in Bronx, New York, and then I put in all these different cities. Every city's talking about it on their local news. Every city is like, because also the dump trucks are catching on fire because people are not disposing of them properly. They're throwing them in there, they're rupturing in there, and people are having to deal with these crazy fires. They're happening. People are trying to re-engineer e-bikes, and there's these fires in urban neighborhoods that are taking down like city buildings and stuff like that. So I was going to say city blocks, so I was just exaggerating. So anyways, I started learning about thermite, and I'm going to bounce around here, but I'll get back to the smart meters. So as I started to try to investigate the agenda with the whole pushing people into the smart cities and the Agenda 2030 and Agenda 21, and there's also Agenda 2050 and how the smart meters play and everything, I started learning about the spraying of the chemtrail constituents, and all of that. Like, how is that a play in these forest fires? How come these forest fires are also more aggressive than ever, and what's happening there? There's so many different things at play there with the forest
Sure.
fires. So for one, regions are becoming drought stricken because the weather is being engineered, and the powers that be, are not allowing as much rain on these forests as they're used to. So they're partitioning the rain for other people. Like Bill Gates is the largest farm owner now in the country. You better believe his land ain't getting drought stricken. His land's getting nice and rained on. You know what I mean? It's like
Oh,
he's also over
exactly.
there. You can also trade weather as a commodity on the stock market now. So it's like, if you know where it's going to rain and not rain, you can really control the weather, control the world. If you know that it's going to be drought stricken on this land for 10 years, and then you can gobble it up for pennies on the dollar, and the weather's just going to suddenly shift, and then you're going to be in this perfect lush area. That's how big ag and consolidation, that's how we're getting to where we're at. It's no wonder there's so little varietals in the store, and everything's GMO and all this sort of stuff. So the powers that be create a problem like the drought on the forest. Then for nonstop 20, 30 years now, there's been a very heavy chemtrailing, especially over the Pacific Northwest, where it's very much forested. Pacific Northwest is traditionally very moist, but it's got a lot of independent free thinkers and a lot of rural people living off grid, and they got to push these people out of there and get their agenda underway, right? So instead of completely diverting the jet stream and just droughting this out, which would take a long time because there's moisture coming off the ocean, the redwoods absorb just moisture from the haze and fog. They started spraying a desiccant, which is like it dries it out, makes it, it's a cool word I just learned. They spray this desiccant, which is aluminum oxide. And aluminum oxide is this perfect evil thing to dust our forests with constantly. Because one, the aluminum oxide, it slowly gets uptaken into the tree's roots, and the aluminum disrupts their ability to actually become hydrated. So they become drought stricken from the inside out. No matter how much rain they get, they can't absorb water properly. Also, same with humans and bees. So, and probably all life on Earth. This desiccant dries things out, and it becomes harder for us to absorb water, and we become hydrated easier, and we all become dehydrated, right? So the aluminum oxide is building up in the trees, but then also it breaks down the soil health and the natural microbes and all the healthy biomes and stuff, and it actually makes the soil too alkaline, and then certain things can't grow in it, and it messes with the whole balance, and it messes with the trees again. Then on top of that, the aluminum oxide, it naturally bonds to the iron in the environment. And what thermite is mixing aluminum oxide and iron oxide. And these two together like bring down twin towers and stuff like that, or actually building 6, 7, and there's 4 towers, I think. And then FYI. Okay, so they slowly put that aluminum oxide out there. And then what iron oxide is, come to find out, I've been doing a bunch of investigation research recently, rabbit holes and whatever you want to call them. Iron oxide is just iron in the environment that's oxidizing. So iron that is slowly rusting. So iron that's exposed to air is slowly rusting. There's actually a lot of free iron in soil and what have you. So the iron oxide like bonds, or the rusting iron, aka iron oxide, it bonds to the aluminum oxide that's being sprayed. And the aluminum oxide is also patented fire accelerant on its own, but it's bonding to iron in elemental form in nature, and then it's in the trees. So you got trees that are packed full of thermite. This is not cool, right? So then the forest gets struck by lightning because they got these patented freaking lightning storms, and we ended up a few weeks ago with this lightning storm where it lasted 24 hours, and it was a lightning bolt every 5 or 10 seconds. I did the math because I looked at all of it. Every 5 or 10 seconds for the entire 24 hours. It's just constant lightning. It looks so unreal and natural too. But they can precipitate lightning with lasers. They can hit like a dime with lightning bolts now. Like literally they know how to target them and all sort of stuff. And then also you can just have arsons light on the ground, which they do. And we saw a lot of that 4 years ago with Antifa and what have you, like just arsons lighting fires. So then if that doesn't make matters worse and sad and horrible, those in charge, the weather engineers, you know, the US military industrial
Oh yeah.
complex, all these different players, NASA and all the Department of Energy, all these different players. NASA has a budget of $80 million a day, and they have a whole chemtrail program, right? That's the whole thing that they have, where they spray noctilucent, they spray aluminum, barium, strontium. It's like public. So then to add insult to injury, they could seed clouds and make rain. There's all the different ways they could actually make the rain over these fires to quell them, put them out.
Sure.
But instead they make crazy winds on top of the fires. So right now we had all the spraying yesterday and really crazy winds. And I swear it was to get all this wind turn up because there's a lot of new fires on the West Coast right now. They happen to all happen at the same time, but like Oregon, Idaho, Washington, Colorado, California, they all just get lit up at the exact same time. And now we're all in smoke. I'm in smoke again. It's been a really smoky summer. So these fires end up happening wherever, all over the place. And then some of them, and then there's the firefighters and all the resources are spread thin. And then these fires get close to a town and the winds are just perfect. And like in the situation of Maui or these other places, the fires encroach on the town. And then all of a sudden, these homes are just going up like crazy. And what seems to be happening, and I looked it up, these smart meters have lithium-ion batteries. Now, why? They're connected to the electricity. Don't they just need to be plugged in? Well, they claim that they need to monitor the electricity if it's off as well. Every few seconds, just to make sure it's whatever. It's just like insanity. I mean, I guess I could somehow be convinced that they're monitoring to see if the electricity is working or not or whatever, but they literally have their own batteries. So these batteries in this system are connected to the entire wiring of the whole house, right? And that I looked that up today. It's usually copper, but it can also be copper and steel, and it's these different conductive metals that are designed to be conductive, to have electricity going through them, right? So if you've ever like dealt with like a metal pan or something that's on the stove, convection is a real thing. You got something that's heating up metal, and that'll travel up the metal, especially if the metal is very conductive and malleable and meant to be traveling electricity. And then also it's insulated, so it can probably withstand a lot of heat. I know once it gets to like 2,000 or 3,000 degrees, we're dealing with like molten metals inside of these insulated wires that run all throughout the home. But imagine, I mean, nefarious or not, maybe this is just an accident and there needs to be some lawsuits and these things need to come off. They could just be accidental, but it seems to be very plotted and like layered and not just negligence, in my opinion. It seems very malicious. So what happens is maybe a fire comes to a neighborhood, and then for a forest fire, 140 degrees is nothing, you know? Sure. So these batteries in the smart meters on these homes get to be 140 degrees, whether they're remotely triggered to do so and we're literally in a war zone, or this is just some accidental thing that needs to be addressed. And then everyone that's listening, there's opportunities. You can call, maybe not where you live, because I've heard some horror stories about your state, but there are states where you can opt out and get not smart meters, you get analog meters.
Okay. Yeah, I think Tennessee is another one where you can't opt out of, but you're saying North Carolina, you can't opt out of smart meters.
You can, but they make you prove that you have health problems that came from the smart meter, and they basically make it impossible, and it's a big rigmarole. But I know in California, and I know where I live, and there's places. So depends on where you live, and then also if you can't get it off, there's a good chance you can get it further from your home through just asking for it to be put on a post.
Now, have these always been harmful, and how long have they been using lithium-ion batteries on them?
Well, that's a great question. Well, there's all these different models, and maybe not every single model has a lithium-ion battery. I know that these models in these certain situations where we've had all these crazy fires, they were like that. And when did these smart meters start to come out is a question. They're a pretty new thing. I mean, in the United Kingdom, they're just trying to shove them down their throat right now, and they're saying we'll give you free pizza if you sign up. You know, like a lot of people don't have them, and they're being they're trying to get them to do it through offering them donuts and stuff like that, like they did the other stuff. But in some places they don't have them, in some places they're new, in some places they've had them for a while. But I would say it's probably just a decade-old thing. Let's just ask Google real quick. I'm gonna
Sure. I
ask
know
you
I
this.
looked it up and it said like it was created in, I think, 1976.
Mm, that's cool. Created, yeah, smart meters amount. 2011. The
Wow. Okay.
smart
I was
meter,
way out.
the official national smart meter rollout began in 2011 and was meant to finish in 2020. Oh
And
no,
they're
that's
behind
UK.
schedule. Oh, okay.
It says this is UK. I'm looking at 1972. Some guy in Alabama created some monitoring system. Okay, I'm gonna have to ask it in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
When did smart meters come out in the US? 1977. My butt.
Yeah. See, around there.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but they were not popular for a while. Smart meters first started to gain traction in the US in 2006.
Okay.
PG&E began a rollout of 9 million smart meters in
Mm-hmm.
California. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh, whatever. It says the date. It's past 20 years basically. So I'm not giving them the cookies they want. By the end of 2016, they had the U.S. electric utilities had installed 71 million smart meters. Wow, covering 47% of the 150 million electricity users. So they were only at half adoption in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So in the past, yeah, so they're still rolling them out. Yeah, la 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 la, and they're newer in other countries. But yeah, everyone's probably smelling what I'm stepping in by now. You got this thing attack. You got this device. Okay, and mind you, we can talk about the ethical problems of it. It's emitting radiation every few seconds, and it's surging. So here's the deal: what I've learned is one thing at a time. So, firstly, the battery in the meter seems to be surging and creating this extreme heat upwards to 6,000 degrees. How hot, how fast, it's all variable. I mean, it's probably a per case situation, but it gets to thousands of degrees very fast. Now the heat can easily be transferred throughout the entire home through these wires. And this is very likely why you're seeing these homes that are pulverized from what looks like the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And standing right next to them is a pine tree or something that would be very flammable, and it's looking
Untouched. Yeah.
unscathed,
Mm-hmm.
just literally untouched. And so it seems to me like the smart meters
And is
are
that why
creating
some of the homes
batteries.
didn't burn in these fires because their electricity was off?
Yes, I mean, in
Mm-hmm.
some situations, I can't say yes across the board, but I do know situations where, like for instance, where I lived in Talent, Oregon, I was walking through the rubble,
Mm-hmm.
and the buildings that were sitting there, surrounded by dust from everything else, were
Sure.
untouched. The ones that were untouched had old analog meters, or there were old buildings that didn't even have electricity on, right? So I do think that electricity and now also the lithium-ion batteries are a big culprit in all of this, like internal electrical fires across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And so then also you're ending up with cars that are like totally burned out and melted and stuff like that. And I think that also has to do with the conductivity, the metal of the cars, and these things being like quasi electrical lithium fires.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get the lithium to heat up the internal of the house, now you've got metal fires, like these metals, these wires, they melt at 2,000 and 3,000 degrees. You're heating them up to 6,000 degrees. You've got hot, molten, crazy, boiling, burning metals that
Mm-hmm.
could easily, and it's probably got all this electricity juicing through it too. And that's why I think wooden things and plastic things aren't being impacted as much as metal things. And so then to grasp what a smart meter is, which is important, the old analog meters, they're just reading, they've got this little spinning meter on it, and it's reading how much electricity you've used. And
Mm-hmm.
each month somebody comes over working for the power company and comes up to your home and looks at it, takes a little note, and compares it to last month's numbers, and gives you your bill, right? Very simple.
Mm-hmm.
And that was how it was done for some time. Then the word smart came out, and that's we got if we're going to really do the due diligence on the research on when smart meters came out,
Mm-hmm.
smart is a very broad term. There's so many different versions of smart meters. Even in my town, the smart meters that are all right, they are a digital face, and
Mm-hmm.
they collect all of the data, but they don't emit radiation until someone comes up with the truck and queues it up once a month. And then
Mm-hmm.
it blasts the data for a second. And yeah, that's a little radiation, but it's not like all the day, all the time kind of thing. So there's different models, different versions, different power companies, different all sorts of things. There's so many different, like, I mean, maybe we could ask the AI how many types of smart meters there are out there, but I'm sure there's lots, like
Oh, there
lots.
has to be.
Like there's so many, and some of them have built-in surge protection, and some of them are very much flawed. Like I know this model that was in the neighborhoods that burned in my community is called Eclair 210 smart meters. The Eclair 210 had no surge protection to the main line. And I
Mm.
had mainstream normal electricians come into me and saying that this is a huge potential fire hazard because these things are supposed to have backstops so that if there is a surge, if there's like some sort of fire, electrical surge, that it wouldn't be just juicing up the houses, that it would stop at the backstop mechanisms that are smart meters. They should be helpful and what have you. So what
Mm-hmm.
happens is the smart meter. So there's two things that what make the smart meter bad and just sitting on your home. I mean, there's multiple reasons, but the two main reasons are they're emitting dirty electricity throughout your home. And so each outlet actually has this surging dirty electricity coming off of it. And I'll explain that. And that becomes like pretty bad for you. So you don't want to like sleep right next to your outlets. And there's things that you can do to ground out that electricity, learn about grounding and things like that. But the way that the smart meters are designed are pretty predatory. And then also for them to give the information back to the power company, they have to send it wirelessly, and
Mm.
they have a really strong signal that they just send to the next closest smart meter, and then that smart meter forwards it on. So you're in a neighborhood, you're surrounded by all these smart meters talking to each other, sending it to the next
Mm-hmm.
big bank of smart meters that can send it over to the cell tower that can send it to the cell phone company kind of thing. I mean, to the whoever power company, right? To give you your bill. It's absurd. So there's this EMF coming off of it, and it's depends on the model, but it's surging every like 5 seconds, which it doesn't need to be doing that. It could be doing it every day, or every week, or once a month. But every 5 seconds, it's bam, sending out this strong signal, and it's always it's never consistent. So it's like your body can't get used to it. So I'm pretty sure what I'm learning is in order for it to get the reading of how much electricity you're using in your home,
Mm-hmm.
it has to know what's on right now. What's on right now?
Sure.
What's on right now, and then how many volts it's using, and then it asks again a couple seconds later, and it's like, oh, if that's still on, it's been on for 5 seconds, and therefore this is how much electricity it's using, right? So it has to
Mm-hmm.
do a feedback loop. So it surges a little dirty electricity that comes back, and it's able to do the math on that. It's like it does like 20 hertz or whatever, and then if it comes
Mm-hmm.
back 30 hertz, it's like, okay, I know he's using 10 over here or whatever. It's like that's how it's able to do it, to get the feedback, to get the information, to constantly give the data. But that makes for a surge of dirty electricity in your outlets. And you're able to get outlet grounding plug-in things that reground the dirty electricity. Come to find out, it wouldn't even be like this if we had gone with Tesla tech. Like the difference between alternating current and direct current is a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know Edison went town to town under Rockefeller money and JP Morgan?
Yeah.
And Edison, and he was like
Mm-hmm.
trying to demonize like Nikola Tesla's technology, which was actually more efficient, right? Direct current, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the alternating current is actually produces all this dirty electricity.
Yeah.
So, so to make people not believe in Tesla's tech, he went city to city in like the early 1900s and electrocuted animals on stages. You know about this?
I've heard
You
about
know,
it. Yeah.
yeah. I didn't believe it was true because at first I saw it on Bob's
Mm-hmm.
Burgers and I was like, "Is this true?" And then I looked it up.
Oh,
Right,
yeah. Okay.
Bob's Burgers is speaking some truth. So funny. So, anyways, it's true, and it's on Wikipedia and all this stuff, and there's books on it and whatever. It's all over the place. So he went city to city and on stage gave these speeches, anti-Tesla hate speeches, and then got out some electricity and in front of
Mm-hmm.
people, electrocuted animals and killed them. In one instance, I think it was St. Louis, he electrocutes an elephant in front of everybody and is like, this is what Tesla does. And it's just like a
Crazy.
fear-based propaganda,
Mm-hmm.
fear-based propaganda machine. But they really got to the people that way and got everyone with this other stuff that's really dirty electricity. So come to find out, these fires seem to be very planned and orchestrated. And those behind the scenes likely know that the jig would be up if
Mm-hmm.
people started realizing that our lithium batteries are toxic. Let's put a different battery in these things. Maybe we don't even need these smart meters, or wait, these smart meters are fire hazards. We should tell the firemen, and we should get these things
Sure.
regulated properly. There's all these things that can unravel, but all we're doing right now is letting the truth out like a lion. And I firmly believe that all you have to do is let it out of its cage, the lion, and it'll do the work. You just have to let the people know. So that's what we're doing. It's very important to let people know what's going on, especially when it's all so hidden and muddy. The waters are so muddy. The lies are so pervasive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you want to pull up that post that you had so you can read the comments?
Oh, um, I guess I could.
All right, you got it pulled up. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, so this is a post that I made on Facebook a day ago, and remarkably, it wasn't extremely censored because you can tell it got a bunch of comments and shares.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll post something similar, and it won't have any attention at all. It just depends on how the algorithm feels about it and whatever. And it's important not to use people's names or locales so they don't like people gathering and all
Mm-hmm.
this sort of stuff. So this is my post. Smart meters have lithium-ion batteries. When these batteries catch fire, they have a thing called thermal runaway, 140 degrees Fahrenheit. It's the whole story that we just talked about. And thanks for letting me like really deep dive into it, because it's
Sure.
important to like grasp. So let's see. So it's a really, I think, okay, and this is part of like learning to discern, learning to cultivate gut instincts and all these sort of things. Not all comment sections are very good, but
No, not at all.
I've done a pretty good job of blocking a lot of trolls and blocking bots, and I've cultivated a decent environment for free speech on my platform. If you see here, oh, does it even say? Yeah, I've got 86,470 followers, and they chime in, people that want to chime in. And so these people wanted to chime in about the smart meter conversation. And let's just take a really quick look at what they said about the 132 comments about the situation. I don't really like this whole most relevant. It's like, I don't want Facebook to decide what's relevant for me. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Okay, someone says bingo. Someone says this is what happened in Maui. The firefighters said the fires appeared to have started from the smart meters. 18
Mm-hmm.
replies. Wow, look at all these. Um uh uh okay, interesting. People like to talk about the do. I think there was something even nefarious about Maui. Yeah,
Yeah, there was.
World War Three. Damn thinking Matt. Yeah. Um, what did they say in Italian? Okay. um, uh, there's a lot. There's people love the do talk. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Don't get started. They say laser globalist planned it this way. Matt, absolutely correct. It is insane.
Sounds pretty
Maui.
convincing. Yeah.
uh, There's a lot of smart meter talk in Wisconsin. Thermite. Yeah, uh-huh. Maybe while the houses in Lahaina didn't burn, the ones in the know wouldn't have a smart meter. Who knows? Do people like this direct energy weapon theory? I think it's maybe a mix, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, look at this. family of 9 forced to go off grid in Tennessee because they refused a smart meter, and so they shut off their power. So
Yeah, Tennessee, they won't allow. Yeah.
people are in the know though, so that's
Hmm.
convincing. That's nice. Um, let's see what else people had to say. Um, green agenda. I don't even know what that was supposed to say.
Oh, that one about the blue roofs. You know, there's that theory that the
Yeah,
blue
I
roofs
know
were
the
the
blue,
ones that weren't touched.
right, but houses have circuit breakers.
Are you referring to the houses without the blue roof?
Yeah, they're thinking I'm talking about surge electricity. I'm talking about heating the
Hmm.
wires to 6,000 degrees. No circuit breaker is going to stop that. Over here, a lot of gas fires since smart meters or even digital meters. It's just dangerous. Smart meters are weapons. Thermite controlled demolition 9/11. What better way to have you own nothing? Place a smart meter in your homes. People in their blue roofs, man. I don't know. I don't want to totally slam that thing right now because like we're all in this. We can all come to the truth on our own terms.
Hmm.
Also, can you imagine what happens when the human body becomes high in copper and aluminum? You become more of a conductor. No wonder they're pushing vegan diets. Some people, oh my. What can we do to protect our homes from smart meters? I opted out. I opted out this last December. Said my meter broke and they installed it anyways. Basically, here's a pic. What kind are they? These are all smart meters, buddy. Send it. Sorry.
Ah, yes. Okay.
I posted comments. What type are they? They're smart meters. I can't tell exactly what they are. Um, okay, that's the comments section. Maybe that
All
wasn't
right.
as excited. Maybe you don't want to.
No,
I don't know if you.
yeah.
That wasn't 132 comments, was it?
They went
Anyways,
from oldest, you could only do it from oldest or newest.
I'm a gatekeeper. All right, cool.
Hmm.
Let's go ahead and block this guy. You might not want to include
Oh, it's all good.
whatever you want to do, but this is life on Facebook, you know.
It is.
Shall. Oh, love it. Okay. So that's that. Let's see what we got here. Stop sharing. And there we are. Yeah, you can include that if you want. It maybe it didn't really tell the story. The one person said the Maui firefighters thing, that was something. Um, I'm
And
glad that at least
I
it
did
reached some people.
interview someone in she was part of For Our Rights Kauai. She was in Kauai way
Mhm.
back. And if I can get a hold of her, we might be able to do a show if you're interested. She's in Hawaii
Yeah, that'd be
to
cool.
discuss this. But she's the one that like broke it had a huge rumble uh video to Instagram video and it went
Mhm.
out. And so I reached out to her and interviewed her back when all that happened. So
Oh, amazing.
mhm.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to talk to more people about it as more stuff surfaces. Um, and and I just talked to a guy who was there first with the Paradise fires,
Sure.
and he's got more information on it all and is helping corroborate it all. But I really do think that the smart meters and the fires and the lithium ion, they all need to be investigated. And like I said, you let the truth out like a lion out of its cage, and the truth will do the work. You just have to
Mhm.
open up the idea and have people like looking in the right direction. So I'm going to continue to do so and keep investigating and never stop learning.
And what's so great about you and I and the countless others, like a lot of the people following yours, is we take it from a humanitarian aspect. We're not political. We don't play into those games. We don't play into divide and conquer, and we do our research.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about doing the research and learning to discern and learning what to give your energy to and not. And there's always going to be more unravelings and uncoverings. And so as long as you're committed to the truth, the universe will pave its way to the truth for you. It may take time, but it's worth the wait.
Yeah. Now, one thing I did want to ask you, because you posted a video about your you know, your Faraday bags, right? And how the older ones are no longer working. Do you want to chime in on, because you posted a video on it? Do you want to chime in on that?
Oh yeah, it's been a journey, and
Yeah. Just one second.
it's
Let me
every
get mine. Hold on. So this is one of the products that you sell, Matt, on your Spero Protection gear. And you posted a video about the Faraday bags no longer, the older ones no longer working. Chime in on that.
yeah, so the company that I created, Spero Protection Clothing, it started off in 2018, and I just started making these Faraday blackout phone bags where you put your phone inside you put your smartphone inside these foam bags, and it was a layer of silver fabric, and the foam blacks out. It doesn't have any service, no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, no phone calls, no text messages, no GPS, no tracking, no nothing, no service.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if the phone goes into the mountains and just can't do anything, then it just chills out
Sure.
inside the phone. And it's good for privacy and doesn't have EMF radiation and all that sort of stuff. And it's named after Michael Faraday, who created Faraday cages where you go inside and there's no radiation or dirty electricity, nothing gets inside, right? So the phone bags were a hit. I was happy to start selling them. And I had this big goal to be on 9/19/2019, September 19, 2019. I was going to go on this big radio show, Coast to Coast AM, and
Mm-hmm.
officially like launch the company and sell a bunch of these phone bags. Eight colors I had. And so they were sold all over the place, all over the world. And then in March 2020, like literally March 2020, when we've got these lockdowns, I
Mm-hmm.
started slowly getting phone calls and emails to my company. And these were people that were upset about their phone bags not working anymore. Some of them had phone bags for years, some of them were more recent customers, but they were all complaining. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? You know, what kind of phone do you have? Who's your provider? Where do you live? Oh, maybe it's a manufacturer's defect. I went through the whole thing of being a conscious business owner with integrity. And I decided that I had to make a new version of the foam bags to try it out and double layer the foam bags because the signal must have been getting stronger or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my manufacturer advised as well. So I made the version you have in your hand, which is 2 layers of the silver fabric, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty strong for a while, and it blacked out all the signals. And I thought I mitigated the problem and troubleshooted it. And so I started selling this one only. And then I gave anybody who was complaining that phone bag, and everyone was jazzed. They were like, "Oh, this one does work, Matt." And I was like, "Okay, I guess I had to double layer the fabric." So that worked fine until I was looking at the timeline the other day. It was about a year later because it was fall of 2021 when the Omicron variant came and reared its ugly
Mm-hmm.
head, and it was called the second wave. And for me, with my business, it was the second wave of like this flood of complaints and unhappy customers, and me stressing out and thinking I was going to lose everything. And so, because if the business isn't working, how am I going to sell anything?
Mm-hmm.
Especially like with integrity, I don't want to sell something that doesn't work. So I scrambled. I'm figuring out who's what. Oh, you got a 5G phone. Oh, you're in LA, you're in Fort Lauderdale, you're in these cities or whatever. You've got a new iPhone, whatever that was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it was the iPhones that are on Verizon. And the Verizon iPhones, even if it says 4G LTE or if it says 5G, 4G LTE just stands for long-term evolution, which is an evolution to 5G. So they're going to be evolving your phone while it's in
Mm-hmm.
your pocket. Like you don't need to get any new hardware. They're going to just upgrade your software so that it can propagate a 5G wave, which is different than 4G. It's a lot more intensive, a lot more absorptive. It's a whole different beast. The difference between 5G and 4G, it's a completely different monster. So what it means is 4G is a cell tower that a cell phone that connects to a cell tower. And so it has a signal that can go pretty far, and it's actually measurable, and it's not measured in millimeters, measured in centimeters and inches. And it's a wavelength that is strong enough to go and find the closest cell tower and then get the signal going to the, it's all connected to fiber optic, really, which is, it's asinine. All of the wireless infrastructure we have is all wired, really, to get it sent. So it's all really fiber optics at the end of the day. So anyways, I made these 2-layer bags to block out the signal, and I thought they were going to work fine. And then some smartphones started ringing through, and then that started increasing. A lot of them, 5G phones, different phones, people were complaining again. And it was just like deja vu for me. I couldn't believe it. I was actually dumbfounded. So I came out with a new phone bag that was with copper and nickel and silver. And it was 3 layers of fabrics, and utilize the copper nickel now because it's denser, a little bit denser and stronger in the protection than the silver. And so I had these new phone bags that I came out with, and I thought that those would be gangbusters and work forever. And then they only work for a short amount of time. And as people are continuously getting quote unquote sick and having ailments such as loss of taste, loss of hair, brain fog, all of these are also low-level radiation sickness symptoms. And all of these low-level radiation sickness symptoms would look exactly the same. Runny nose, fever, all of this stuff. And even actually be quote unquote contagious because people start shedding the radiated cells, because that's all that is a detoxing of radiated cells. You've gotten so much radiation that your body's now wanting to detox it. So you're detoxing your radiated cells. Other people are picking that up because you're hanging out with them. You're basically shedding. And then other people will pick up your radiated detox cells, and your body will see that, pick up on that frequency and be like, well, I've actually got radiated cells. I want to detox too. So then you detox them if you've got radiated, which you do, we all do, but to what extent depends on our lifestyles. So I'm on like phone bag number 3, and then that one only worked for a short amount of time. And then I had to work on the closure, and I made it more of a fold over bag instead of a cinch bag. And then that bag only worked for a brief amount of time. So I ended up coming out with about 6 phone bags. One had a magnetic closure. I even had a waterproof one in there in the middle of it all, and that one didn't work for too long. So what was happening was the phones were being incrementally turned up in tech, in like their ability to emit frequencies. So like I said, the 4G phones, they connect to a cell tower. The 5G phones, they can't connect to a cell tower. They have such a strong and short signal that's measured in millimeters now. It's a wavelength that's really small, and by having it really small, it can have a lot of oscillations per second, have a lot more data on there, but then that makes it much more absorptive and harmful to things that it's absorbing in, like humans, people, animals, whatever, biological beings, trees, all that sort of stuff. So then the 5G signal can only go, the jury's out on that, and it depends. Actually, like Verizon has a high band, smaller wave. There's high band, mid band, low band. Depends on your country you're in, the phone that you have, the carrier, all of it. There's different versions and spectrums of 5G, so it's a broad word. But overall, it can only travel around 500 to 1,000 feet. It's got to find another node in the system to help repeat it. So it's looking for another cell phone to repeat the signal. So if you get a handful of phones in the same area, they form a network, and then they get really strong together and can send the signal further. But every phone is basically like a mobile cell tower now. It's interfacing, integrating with all the other phones, and acting as like a repeater, a signal repeater for all the signal around it. So it's much stronger signal, a different size carrier wave, much more absorptive. It's a completely different beast than 4G. So people are like, how much more radiation is it than 4G? Like 5 times more radiation? It's not even, like, I could say about 100 times more radiation, but it's not even you can't even calculate it. It's something that the human race had never even witnessed. It's something we've never even been exposed to. So it definitely could easily cause and wreak a lot of havoc. And then the instances that I was dealing with, people were literally getting quote unquote sick and then contacting me and saying, your phone bag just stopped working. And I just got sick as well. And I'm like, oh, interesting. And I'm like, did you happen to get a new phone? They're like, yeah, my whole family just got the new iPhone 11 or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you all got 5G phones. They all started, they worked for a minute in the phone bags, like the phone would block them out. Phone bag would block them out. Then all of a sudden, they all started ringing through the phone bags, and you all got sick at the same time, and with random things like loss of taste and these things that are loss of hair. These are radiation sickness symptoms. Like, come on. And like if you study virology and all this stuff, like it gets a little deep, and you can conclude that most likely the scenario was more likely than not 5G needed a smoke screen. Had 5G just been rolled out, people would have shown problems with the tech. It would have hit the media, people would have filed lawsuits, and it wouldn't have been able to have the adoption that it did. Instead, there was a smoke screen to blind us from the elephant in the room and to keep us from grasping and to get us to like warm up to the tech, and basically we develop an immunity to it. Like we get conditioned to the new form of radiation, and then we don't show symptoms as easy. And so they needed that time to pass for all this chaos and everything. And I was firsthand witness to it. And I don't just jump to conclusions. Like this is definitely, in my eyes, a causal relationship, not a corollary relationship.
Sure.
And it's because I've dealt with a lot of data and a lot of numbers, and I had to keep evolving the bags. And now I'm on version like 7 or something. If I need to evolve it again, I will. But right now it's cutting the signal and mitigating, eliminating the radiation from the phones, and that's what it's designed to do. And everyone should have one. I mean, like you invest all this money in this thing that's, let's be real. It is, I don't want to attack people's my precious, but the phones do emit radiation. And if you have children, or if you care about your health, or if you learn about circadian rhythm and even diabetes or all sorts of things, the signal on the cell phone is getting so small that it can bifurcate cells. It can split cells and cause cells to get mutated and lead to tumors and stuff like that. And less is more when it comes to 5G tech and radiation and all this pervasive technology that we have now. So it's important to learn about grounding, mineralization. The tech strips you of minerals, especially zinc, and so we have these zinc deficiencies that make us look like that we have colds, but it's really that. A lot of it is just mineral deficiencies. But learning about grounding is super important, and then learning about EMF and how to mitigate, and even looking up what a SARS rating. There's SARS ratings for each phone. It gives it a number of the level of radiation that it's at. So the higher the number, the like 1 through 10, I believe, or something like that. And the higher the number, the more radiation the phone puts off. But some phones are designed to not have as much radiation. I believe you were telling me that your phone might be like less radiation than most, and that's cool. It's great. Not everyone has to have an iPhone. Like almost everyone has an iPhone.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's wild. But you don't have to, and I've reverted. I had a 3G phone, and they discontinued it 2.5 years or something ago. And it was about 2 years ago, and I didn't upgrade. I just have a landline and Ethernet wired. I don't do wireless radiation because I know the harms, and I'm trying to walk the walk. And it's important to grasp what we're dealing with, especially for the next generation, especially if you're a parent raising kids. If you're a parent raising kids and you're just handing them an iPad and it's connected to Bluetooth, connected to the internet, looking for Wi-Fi, even if it's not connected to Wi-Fi,
AirPods too are lethal.
Oh my gosh,
that could
those
be a whole show, but...
wireless headphones, the AirPods, wireless baby monitors, Bluetooth everything. It's very predatory, pervasive tech, and we did not grow up with this. Come on, people. And people want to replace the babysitter with this. And there's all these things. I just interviewed a naturopath that I should actually have you interview her as well. And we broke down in just an hour. I was asking her all these different things, and so many things just came circling back to EMF and diet. EMF and diet, like ADHD hyperactivity. It's like red dye 40. It's
Hmm.
like, what is the kid's environment like, or what is the human's environment like before we go plugging them full of allopathy? You know what I mean? So it's important to grasp who we are, where we're at, where we're heading. And it can get really philosophical and spiritual if you start looking into Rudolf Steiner, who says that we need to adopt a lifestyle of balance where
Hmm.
50% of our life is not technology, like nature, like
Yeah.
not plugged in. And if we can find a balance, we can find our way. But if we don't, we're just going to get sucked in and be on the metaverse, and then that'll be our everything always.
I
I
think it's,
rewatched the
yeah.
movie. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think it's also taking the small victories. I mean, for me, going out doing filming, for like TikTok videos and such, I feel so glad when I find a park that doesn't have a 5G tower up. When you can
Yeah.
find a park, whether it be because we got a whole bunch of neighborhood parks where I live. You can look them up online. And when I finally found one, that didn't have a 5G tower, like it might not have been the best parks, but just for it to have a trail and not a 5G tower, I'm like, that's perfect.
Yeah. It probably backs up to some Rothschild's house or something. That's why there's no tower. I'm just
No,
kidding.
but there funny you should mention the name. Well, not the Rothschilds, but there was a lady today at my work and she was bragging. She goes, "Oh yeah," she was bragging to the other woman. She goes, "Yeah, I just got back from upstate New York. We were checking out the Vanderbilts and the Rothschild, and the Rockefeller's house and somebody else." I'm like, it's just amazes me how brainwashed these people are. Like even we'll end it on this. I know we've been going for a while. Like even Thursday, I sent you the article on it. Thursday, Oprah's doing a special with Bill Gates and Sam Altman on AI, and I hope it bombs like heck. That people tune out like crazy because they're trying to normalize that. They want to, and it just, is besides me that so many people worship these people and think they're good humanitarian people. The Bill Gates, the Sam Altmans, the Oprahs, you name them.
Yeah, they're all trillionaires. They don't care about us.
No, not at all.
No,
Yeah.
no, not at all.
But I really appreciate you coming on. I'll post all of your links below. And, thanks so much, Matt, for being a light in this world and for standing for what's right.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
And I look forward to doing more deep dives with you into different topics. And I hope that this information is well received. And if it's outside of your perception, if you're really drawn to the directed energy weapon story or whatever, we're not saying that that's not true. We're
hmm,
offering just more explanation to like what's fueling the fires from the ground level. Like
sure.
these things could be triggered remotely from
Hmm.
who knows what. I'm just trying to put all the pieces together. And so that's the path that we're on. And
Sure.
welcome to the journey of truth, everyone. And thank you, Mark, for being a part of it.
Yes.